is June 2nd, about 5:30 p.m. This is the time and place for the Grand Forks Growth Fund JDA meeting. Item 1.1, roll call.
All right, Weigel.
Here.
Osowski. Here. Berg. Here. Lansky. Friedels.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
Veen. And Mayor Buczynski. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 2 is action items. 2.1's flex pace loan request, Johnstown Bean Company. Mr. Conlon.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Weigel, members of the authority. So first item for you tonight on a long agenda is a flex-based loan request from Johnstown Bean Company. It's a primary sector certified family-owned bean processor out of Gilby. They're doing a fairly significant expansion to some of their logistics handling equipment. The loan is going to be funded in part by a Alaris loan of $500,000. So the request of the JDA is flex-based assistance to the tune of $8,436. The interest would be deferred for the standard 5 years and then repaid over 12 months at 2.5% and then secured by a subordinate blanket UCC and some corporate and personal guarantees. I'm happy to stand for any questions on that.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.1. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.1? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Comments from council?
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve by Sandy, second by Berg. Seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.2 is a PACE loan request, Northern Plains Railroad. Mr. Conlon.
Yes, thank you again, Chairman Weigel, members of the authority. Another PACE loan request, this time from Northern Plains Rail Company. They're a private railroad business, primary sector certified. Serve a variety of sort of business segments that serve logistics and grain transport for our region and agricultural producers. Also expanding, purchasing some equipment, expanding their rail fleet and some support equipment. Going to be funded again by an Alaris loan of just over $2.9 million, making the PACE loan request rather of the JDA, bringing that to $116,511. Again, deferred for the 5 years at 2.5%, then over the following 12 months, and then secured by that subordinate blanket UCC on business assets, personal guarantee, and then a series of corporate guarantees from their associated affiliate entities.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.2. Does anybody like to speak on item 2.2? Seeing nobody, we'll open it up to committee comment.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Friedels. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 2.3 is a PACE loan request for Cirrus Industries. Mr. Conlon.
Thank you again, Chairman Weigel, members of the authority. I won't go through the details of the project you've heard a lot about, and you'll hear more about it tonight at City Council for the pilot request. But Cirrus Aircraft, the primary sector certified companies doing the expansion that you've discussed in the past. A portion of that is requested to be supported by PACE loan assistance here to buy down the interest on a roughly $9.5 million Wells Fargo loan. The request of the JDA is a $269,231 PACE interest loan, deferred for shorter than the 5 months or 5 years this time. 3 years is what the deferral would be, and again 12-month repayment schedule. Subordinate UCC filing similar to the others, and some guarantees as well. Happy to stand for questions on that one as well.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.3. Does anybody like to speak on item 2.3? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Open it up to Mr. Sandy. Motions to approve, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Move on to item number 2.4, accelerate loan modification request for Thread. Mr. Sandy.
The organization that I work for is one of the largest shareholders in Thread, and so I certainly have a conflict of interest. I'd be happy to vote on this if you all want me to, but likely I should be recused.
Is there a motion to allow President Sandy to vote?
I motion to allow President Sandy to vote.
We have a motion by Osowski, second by Berg. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr., what's that? I'm sorry.
The motion would fail.
Yeah, motion fails, so I apologize. I was getting in a roll here. Anyways, Mr. Conlon.
Thank you again, Chairman Wagle, members of the authority. The background I'll give here briefly is for the next three items, all related to our Accelerate Loan Program. We no longer do that program. We have consulted with the Bank of North Dakota, who also has LIFT loans with these companies. So we are recommending sort of, our recommendations are reflective of input from the Bank of North Dakota. So with that, for the first one, Thread, we do have a $500,000 Accelerate loan with them. They're doing well. There's a lot of successes with the company. In fact, they're in the middle of a fundraising round right now. The reason we're here making this request for the extension here to February of next year for their repayment is just the timing, so they can complete that fundraising round. So we're looking to, and the Growth Fund made this recommendation to bump up the maturity date, or the requested maturity date, to February of 2026 for them to pay us back in full. There's some more particulars outlined in the staff report as to the interest and that sort of thing. But that would be the request, is outlined in the staff report. Happy to stand for questions on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing item on item number 2.4. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.4? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Is there comment from the committee?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion
Second.
to approve by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with Mr. Sandy not voting. Item 2.5, Accelerate Loan Modification Request, Safety Spec.
Chairman Wagle, members of the authority, another Accelerate loan, another success story. Safety Spec is doing very well. The request before you today is just really to give them a little bit of flexibility for cash flow purposes. They have a lot of success and a lot of things kind of stacking up. But the request here to push out the repayment, or spread it out rather, over 12 equal monthly installments is really just to grant some cash flow flexibility to enable them to kind of continue that positive momentum.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item number 2.5. Is anybody here to speak on 2.5? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Comments from the committee?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Sandy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2.6, Accelerate Loan Authorization to Pursue Collection for Tailory.
Thank you again, Chairman Wagle, members of the authority. Unfortunately, not a success story here. We were informed by Tailory that they're ceasing operations, no longer have any financial assets, and unable to repay. The loan is unsecured currently, so the request before you is to authorize staff and the city attorney to sort of explore what may be available for recovery, authorize us to declare the loan in default, and sort of initiate those default proceedings to see what we can recover.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing. Is anybody here to speak on item 2.6? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Comments from the committee?
Move approval.
We have a motion to approve by Osowski, second by Berg. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. 2.7 is EDA RLF Loan Modification Request, Integrity Fundraisers.
Chairman Wagle, members of the authority, we have Integrity Fundraisers received a $95,000 EDA RLF loan as part of the COVID recovery. The recovery from COVID hit them a little harder than many businesses, so they are still kind of digging out of a hole. They've been in constant communication with staff throughout that process, which is what we ask of our borrowers, and have followed our sort of now standard process of consulting with SBDC to develop a workable proposal to hopefully get them on more solid footing to make some even greater progress on this loan in the future. So that specific request is outlined in your staff report, so I won't go through those details, but am happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. We'll open the public hearing on item number 2.7. Is anybody here to speak on 2.7? Seeing nobody, we'll close the public hearing. Comments from the committee?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Berg, second by Friedolfs. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2.8, purchase property located at 575 and 595 South Washington Street with multiple attachments A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Mr. Gosta.
Yep, thank you. I'll just give you a brief summary. The staff report sets out in detail what has transpired. We entered into a purchase agreement in March of 2025 with Lander Real Estate LLC. At the time, we knew that there were two easements, sign easements that are of record for three separate areas. There was to be payments made, and the sign easement was in favor of Newman Signs Incorporated. There to be annual payments. 2025 was a little over $14,000. That's retained by the seller under the purchase agreement. 2026 is a little over $14,600, and then there's a 3% escalator. One of the conditions for the city to be required to close is that the terms of the easements, sign easements, are approved by the council, and we actually put in provision that may require modification of the existing easements. One of the things you got to be mindful of is that the term grantor in the easement, that would mean it would be the city becomes the quote grantor under the terms of the easement. And the way it sets up is that, one, there can't be any signs on those three easement areas, which isn't an issue. But the terms of the easements also provided that there can't be a sign within 600 feet of those billboards that are up there. And this is at the corner of Demers and Washington. And there can't be any obstructions as well. The 600 feet is really what was at issue. And it was 600 feet not only on the property that the city would be buying, but any other property that would be within that 600-foot parameter. And so the issue became, one, the city owns the property right next door to where it's at, the Fire Station 1, and it's got a sign on it. Also, an issue about traffic safety, road construction signs. The city would have interest in right-of-ways. And that could be precluded under the sign easement because those would be within 600 feet. Also, there was discussion about maybe putting a monument sign on the remaining part of the property being purchased, not on the three easement areas, but what's left to kind of designate what this building is. And also, there's a building on there to be able to put a sign on the building to kind of designate what it is. So what I did is I prepared an amendment to the easement documents that would have allowed a monument sign as long as it didn't obstruct those billboards, a static sign on the building itself, to exclude street maintenance signs, traffic safety signs, exclude those from application from the easement, and then also to confine it so that no other signs can be placed on that particular property, not other property such as the fire station parcel. That was not acceptable to Newman because they're the ones that have the easement in favor of them. We offered to also reduce the amount of that payment. It's that $14,600, restart it at 50% of what it was today, so a little over $7,300, keeping the 3% escalator, and that was rejected as well, to try to get this amendment to go forward. And what we were told is that what was being proposed with the monument sign or the sign in the building or the sign on the fire station would all be violation of the easements and wouldn't be agreeable to Newman Signs. And so the second resolution would be for the JDA to buy the property, which would necessitate the city assigning its interest in the purchase agreement, which I believe the buyer would be okay with, just transferring that purchase right to the JDA. That wouldn't resolve the issue about being able to put a monument sign on the building because the JDA then would become a grantor. It wouldn't resolve the issue about having a sign on the building because the JDA would still be the owner and be subject to the easements, and all those would be within 600 feet. The attempt was to alleviate the issue with respect to the fire station because the JDA would own the property that's being purchased, but the city would own the fire station property. And so the city wouldn't be necessarily subject to the easement requirements. And also, it would alleviate the issue, or attempt to alleviate the issue with respect to street signage, because we'd put it on rights of way and things like that. The city would, not the JDA. One of the issues that we've identified, we did a little bit of legal research, and sometimes the JDA is deemed to be a separate entity from the city. And sometimes it can be deemed to be, an alter ego, one and the same as the city. So there still remains some issue here, even with the assignment to the JDA. So this body this body would only be voting to determine whether they'd be willing to accept an assignment of the property, assuming the city council would approve that. The issue for the city council, there's 3 decision points. One is for the city council and this body to go through this exercise of assigning the purchase agreement to the JDA from the city. The other alternative for the city is to simply, and this is not something for this board to consider, but the city could simply agree to the terms of the easement as is. That's a choice as well. Or the last option is the option that I don't think city staff would want to pursue, but it is an option, is to simply say the contract, the purchase agreement is being terminated because that condition to closing can't be satisfied. That's an issue for the city council to determine, not this board. So the issue before this board is to decide whether it would accept an assignment to that purchase agreement, assuming the city council would agree to that.
Thank you, Mr. Gosted. We'll open the public hearing on item 2.8. Anybody here to speak on item 2.8? Seeing nobody, I'll open it up to discussion. President Sandy? Oh, Ms. Berg?
I was just going to ask, did Newman have any issue with the JDA being the owner?
That was not presented to them. This was an option after we received a communication that the other options for amendment and the reduction for the fee were all rejected.
Mr. Sandy?
Mr. Constant, in terms of the purchase of this property, if the JDA does move forward, can we tie the future, the 2051 council into not renewing Newman's lease on the billboards? Can we bind our future council?
You would be, because the easements are of record, and so they've attached to the real estate, and they are an encumbrance on the real estate at this point.
But in 2051, their lease runs out, correct?
Correct.
And so then at that point, the city council, whichever city council, can do whatever they want, right?
Correct, and whoever is the city attorney can make whatever recommendations. I'm not expecting to be here in 2051.
President Sandy still might be, though, Mr. Gostel.
I doubt it.
Other comments? I guess I'll just say that it's kind of disheartening that doesn't appear that Newman wants to work with the city a whole lot, so that's kind of disappointing. But further comment?
I guess I would have to agree with you, Mr. Weigel. I find it very disappointing that they're not willing to work with the city, so.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
So what, are we really in need of this property? Like, how much do we actually need it? Are there other options for us to pursue?
Yep. Chair or President Weigel and Councilmember Osowski. Number one, we went to brought it forward to the purchase if we didn't feel like we needed it. It's really a strategic option. It's contiguous to our central fire. It's a building that can house 4 offices with a work area. And we're never, and I think obviously the purchase price is around $800,000 to $900,000. We're not going to be able to expand any of our buildings for near that price or near that location. So it really was seen as a strategic purchase for us. Would really help us move forward with the fire department for the next 20 years with putting the fire marshal's office in there and provide some, garage space and all those things. So those are all things that we would have a hard time expanding any of our existing facilities for without expending, millions of dollars for that. I think the other advantage is that we'd be owner of that property that's at that strategic intersection. And as Mr. Sandia says, the current, this easement's in 2051, and I suspect between now and the next, 20 to 30 years, there's going to be improvements in that intersection. And so we really think it's a good opportunity. We're going to still continue to operate with or without it, like we are today. But it was really a one-time opportunity that Fire Chief Lorenz brought to us that we thought was strategic, and maybe I'd ask Chief Lorenz to put his own. It all started with our Fire Chief Lorenz, and I thought it was a good idea, so we brought it here. And so maybe since you started us here, Gary, you should probably help explain.
Certainly. Chairman Weigel, Councilmember Osowski, our fire marshal's office in Station 1 is very crowded. We've got really an office for one person that's got 3, often 4, and a lot of times we have people on transitional duty where they're recovering from injuries. It seems like almost constantly, and so there's often 4 people in that office, and when they're on phones, it's very disruptive, and there's literally nowhere else in that station. We're utilizing every square inch of office space. And when we did the space utilization study with the police department, other options for expanding and adding on to that building are significantly more money, like 3 times the amount. And with the work that needs to be done with the police department building, with the sheriff's office vacating here soon, that's certainly a priority. And we understand that in the fire department. This was an opportunity that presented itself, met our needs for quite a while, well, for many years, 20 years beyond, especially for the fire marshal's office, and was really that strategic piece for that corner next to the intersection. It seemed to be the real logical answer to solving our problems.
I guess I really like the land also. It's just, it doesn't make me very happy that I guess Newman is jerking us around a little bit. So I don't really know, but thank you, Mr. Lorenz.
Thank you.
Mr. Lorenz, what would the city of Fargo do in this situation?
There's nobody that could figure that out, and they'd ask for a sales tax.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
You want Mr. Weigel?
Yes.
Unless you had something else
I
to add. I guess, against my better judgment, I will make the motion to move forward with the purchase, or authorizing the city council to take over, or the JDA, asking the city council to take over, allow us to take over their purchase agreement and move forward with the purchase. But I'd also like our Planning and Community Development Department to put together a variance for our billboard ordinance so that we can put a billboard and sell advertisement on the side of that building. So, but I'm not going to make that as part of the motion. We'll discuss that later. So my
I'll
motion
second.
is moving forward.
Thank you. We have a motion from Mr. Sandy, second by Berg. Seeing no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We have a motion to adjourn by Osowski, second by Berg. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.
Great. Mr. Lanigan. Okay. I'll give you a minute to get up and go. Moving right along, welcome everybody to the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Monday, June 2nd. Under item 1, general business, roll call, Maureen?
Weigel. Sowski.
Here.
Berg. Here. Lunsky. Friedolfs.
Here.
Veen.
Here.
And President Sandy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. 1.3 mayor's announcements. I got a couple on behalf of Mayor Boczynski. Certainly a big hearty thank you to all of our city employees, but certainly in this instance, the great work of our city public works department and the crews for certainly a very successful spring cleanup. And as Mr. Phelan pointed out to me, it is probably one of our most popular city services. Points of order, the electronics event drop-off. We took in over 12,500 pounds of electronics in May. And during the actual spring cleanup hauling, 82,000 pounds of products were hauled to the landfill. 82,000 pounds of people dragging their own stuff out to the landfill. And an unbelievable 1,564,000 pounds picked up on the roadside. So, 782 tons. It's an incredible amount of work, and I continue to never hear any complaints about our spring cleanup. So I really appreciate the work of the Public Works Department. We also had the privilege to host 3 successful high school state tournaments over the weekend. The state girls tennis was held at Choice Health and Fitness, and thanks to the Park District for that. High school boys baseball was at Kraft Field. And then high school state girls softball was at the new and beautiful Albrecht Field on the campus of the University of North Dakota. Thank you all for helping host those events. And certainly congratulations to all the graduating seniors at Central and Red River. Thank you. Moving on. Marie?
Awards, presentations, appointments, proclamations, we don't have any tonight. And then public hearing, second reading of ordinances. 3.1 is the public hearing and second reading of ordinance amending City Code 21-0901, 0907, 0908 related to towing.
We'll open the public hearing on item 3.1. Is anyone here to speak to item 3.1 regarding the towing ordinance? No one will close the public hearing. Are there comments and thoughts?
I
Yes.
move approval.
Moved by Osowski.
Second.
Second by Friedolfs. Further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pose same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Berg dissents. 3.2.
3.2, public hearing and second reading of ordinance amending City Code 21-0205, definition Class 6 Fairgrounds alcoholic beverage license relating to canned cocktails.
We'll open the public hearing on item 3.2. Anyone in the audience interested in speaking on 3.2? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Moved by Osowski, second by Berg. Mr. Gustin, we had talked about the definition of canned cocktails. Will we be seeing further revisions to other liquor licenses related to that in the future?
Yes, we were planning on bringing forward with respect to other kind of cleanup after the legislative session, see what other modifications to ordinances may be necessary.
Certainly, very good, but this takes care of the immediate need. Thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
3.3 is a public hearing on application to tax incentive, a pilot from Dakota Aircraft Corporation doing business as Cirrus Aircraft.
Great. Well, Mr. Phelan, did you want to say a few words on item 3.3? Thank you.
I would, Council President Standing, just for the record. Also joined by Dante Tomasini and Steve Thomas from Cirrus Aircraft. They're online, and you have seen them before. Just want to highlight what's in front of you. Today is that first of hopefully one of two expansions. The 30,000 square foot of expansion. It also includes renovation of the existing 170,000 square feet facility. In addition, some equipment, new equipment to that facility. All told, it's an estimated amount, but about a $15 million investment, and probably plus that as we move forward. There is also the promise of the additional 60 to 90,000 square foot addition within the next 5 years. after this 30,000 square foot addition. They are planning to commence construction this summer if possible, if everything goes our way, and thanks to the JDA for approving that PACE financing. I just want to update you on, I think one of the things that have come up is we have created a checklist thanks to Mr. Gosted, and I just wanted to hit some checklist items just for the record about what has happened since we were last here at City Council, where you approved us moving forward under a pre-application on April 21. And so we did reach out on April 24th with the Department of Commerce. Per our checklist, we did do public notices on April 30th and May 7th. Council President Sandy led a local government advisory committee meeting with our other local subdivisions on April 28th. And then after that April 28th local government advisory committee, we did send out letters to both the Grand Forks School Board and also the Grand Forks County Commission on April 29th. And then we were fortunate enough to be able to brief the school board after sending out those correspondence. So they did approve on May 12th this Cirrus application tax incentive. And then succeeding that, the Grand Forks County Commission on May 20th approved the Cirrus aircraft tax incentive. So we're appreciative of both entities, and we did speak on the Grand Forks City Council's behalf that this is a very important tax incentive. It's going to keep over 500 jobs here in Grand Forks. It's going to keep Cirrus aircraft growing and expanding in our community. And so I think even though there were some doubt of whether this was needed, I think both, based upon your leadership on City Council, concurred in a large majority that this was a good idea for the long-term future of Grand Forks. I want to hand it over to Dan Gosted. He did also, as you've seen before, created a development agreement that we want to hit some high points before you consider and vote.
Mr. Gostin?
Yes. First item, I want to talk briefly about the resolution. That should be item F of the agenda item. The resolution kind of goes through, it's the document where you're approving the agreement, the pilot agreement itself, and making certain findings. So I'll go through that real quick. First, sections 1.1 and 1.2 simply describe the land and the development. Section 1.3 and 1.5 describe the various benefits from the project, and that information is derived from prior staff reports. And then sections 1.6 through 1.9 describe the various procedures that have been accomplished that Mr. Phelan just discussed. Sections 1.10 and 1.11, this is something that we need to make that it won't result in any unfair competition, and it's in the best interest of the city. That's actually finding of the best interest of the city is required by Century Code 40-57.1-03, subsection 5. And then the next two sections, one is to approve the pilot development agreement, and then actually to approve the pilot itself. That's the mechanism that'll cause this to occur. I'll go through the pilot payment in lieu of property tax development agreement. You've seen these before. Very similar. We parrot this type of agreement from other pilots. I'll just point out a couple of highlights. One, section 2, really, and that starts on page 5. Starts out that the project has to be commenced by August of 2025 and completed by April of 2026. That came from information from Cirrus itself. 2.3 sets out various construction standards and requirements for the development, but it doesn't alleviate compliance, getting building permits, things like that. The agreement doesn't. They still have to go through that process. Section 3 describes the calculation for the pilot for this expansion. Keep in mind that the existing building will continue to be subject to property tax, and so will the land throughout the 10-year term of this pilot. Also, while this addition is being constructed, that continues to be subject to taxation too, regardless of how far they've gotten along. They have to get to substantial completion before the pilot kicks in. There's a calculation illustration in the agreement itself as to how this will work. There are various conditions that have to be satisfied before the pilot kicks in, and on an annual basis that it continues to be effective. One, obviously, has to be substantial completion of this expansion and a certificate of occupancy issued. That there's no default at the time the pilot starts, and on each assessment date, on every February 1, that there's no default under this agreement, and that the representations and warranties by the developer under Section 4 of the agreement also are true and correct as of the date the pilot starts and on each assessment date. The term of the pilot is for 10 years, although there are early termination provisions, some of which are statutorily based. For example, if there's a change of ownership, if it doesn't comply with the expectations of the city, those are all statutorily, you'd have to come back and the city council would have to vote to terminate the pilot under those set of circumstances. Also, the pilot is only for this particular project operator, so if somebody else gains possession of the property or even takes title to it, there's a distinction, right? Possession is not necessarily title. I can rent land that gives me possession, but I may not own it. But if somebody comes in and acquires the property or gains possession of it, the pilot can continue for that new operator. They just have to come in and request that from the city council. If the business would happen to terminate or stop operating, that can also, the pilot can end as well. And again, the representations or warranties are standard provisions, some of which deal with compliance with foreign ownership and things like that, that Cirrus complies with by statute. They're in compliance with today. The other thing is, first is special assessments are not affected by this. So if there is a special assessment to the property, the pilot has no implication on that whatsoever. Also, the property would not be eligible for any other property tax incentive, like a lowering of the valuation, things like that. This would be it for the next 10 years for the addition. So be happy to answer any questions, but again, this is very similar. You've seen this agreement or a type of agreement before for other pilots, so.
Thank you, Mr. Gusted. Any questions for Mr. Gusted? None. Mr. Phelan, thank you. Have anything further to add? No? Then I'll open the public hearing. Anyone in the audience interested in speaking on item 3.3? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Thoughts on, questions, comments on 3.3?
Comment?
Comment? Yes, Ms.
Yeah,
Osowski?
I'm sure you all know what my comment's going to be. I do not think that we should be giving a CCP-owned company these types of tax incentives, but thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Move approval by Berg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Friedolfs. Further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Thank you.
3.4, to hear appeals and approve benefit determination for Project 7539, District 737, paving and streetlights for Oscarville.
Thank you. Ms. Storsted, comments?
Yeah, I'll just come up here. I'm going to just speak briefly to this, and then I'm going to let Mr. Gosted take it from there for more of the detail. But this item that you have before you is regarding the approval of determination of value for benefit for Project 7539. Like we said, it's paving for the Oscarville area. Just some history on this. The work was completed in this area in 2022. City Council approved certification of the project in October of 2022, and bonds were sold to finance the work. Special assessments were certified back in November of 2022. As far as the detail of appeal and court process, I'm going to let Mr. Gosted speak to that. But ultimately, several departments have worked together with Dan's office in determining methodology for setting a value for the benefit received for projects, and that was approved by the Special Assessment Commission on May 1st and comes to City Council for approval. In looking at this and setting a methodology for setting that value, for benefit, you cannot use cost as your basis. So we went through a lot of work just to look at a process that should be used in determining that value. With that, I'm going to let Dan speak to the court's decisions.
Mr. Guston?
All right, thank you. Members of the council, we're here again on this because this council did actually approve the benefits and the assessments a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. That was appealed to the district court. The district court affirmed this council's decision, and then Mr. Sensky Properties, whoever I guess I could tell you who it is, Sensky Rentals LLC, appealed then to the North Dakota Supreme Court. The North Dakota Supreme Court, in a 3-2 decision with a very lengthy dissenting opinion, reversed, in which resulted in a reversal of the city council's determination of the benefits and particularly the benefits. The analysis that the court went through, first, it looked at Century Code 40-23-07 that talks about you have to determine the amount each parcel is specially benefited. And there are a number of other statutes that talk about amount of the special benefit that is being found. And you have to compare that assessment for the cost of the project can't exceed the benefit. And so what the Supreme Court said is, well, if you're going to evaluate what the costs are in dollars, in order to compare whether those costs exceed the benefits also have to be in dollars or monetized. And before the policy was more cost-driven to determine the benefits. Now you actually have to go through the process of putting a dollar value on these benefits. And in this case, the benefits for the project included property and fire protection, dust suppression, pedestrian accommodation, drainage control, and lighting for pedestrian safety. And the dissent really said, it's very difficult to try to monetize those benefits because they're intangibles. And it's sometimes very difficult to try to put a dollar value on those benefits. But the majority opinion said you still need to try to monetize this. And so in order to do so, you can use the present use in evaluating those benefits. You can use future uses. Enhancing or promoting commercial development can be utilized as a basis for monetizing those benefits to the property. And then you compare those dollar values that you assign to the benefits to the assessment, and if the assessments do not exceed those benefits, then the court would uphold that type of determination. You can use formulas, and in fact, the court said there isn't any precise formula to quantifying the benefits. They came up with an example, the benefit equals frontage feet of a lot times the estimated benefit per foot. And the court said, well, you still need to come up with that estimated value for that per foot benefit to be able to do this analysis. It doesn't require detailed findings of fact. It rather, and this is from the court, it said, rather the exercise of independent judgment in estimating present and future benefit based on evidence and personal knowledge is sufficient. The court also said that it will give deference to its factual determinations as far as those benefits. The court would not reweigh the commission and ultimately the city council's determination as to what those special benefits are. Again, the examples included promoting commercial development, future benefits, valuation increase, and development value. And so some of the information that has been presented, in particular item C, was an effort done by various departments within the city to try to monetize the benefits that derive from this particular project in the street project. And here there is fire and police protection. And there is information from both Fire Chief Lorenz and now Lieutenant Love, then at the time the acting police chief, describing that we can get out to these facilities faster with paved roads than we would under the current conditions without the pavement. And what the value of that human life is, being able to get out there faster in those emergency circumstances. Also, Sarah Sesselman with the engineering department also came up with a calculation of what the delayed response is by not compared to a paved road versus an unpaved road. And then my office did some research to determine, what the value of that human life would be. We use various federal databases to arrive at that number. And if you take a look at it, that value is $8.5 million. Also, included within the valuation of benefits is what's the development value to promote development. And here it's a little bit about $11.4 million. And what the assessing department did in this regard was came up with reviewed another comparable development, commercial development, and looked at what the average value of the properties in that comparable development, looked at the number of developed lots in that particular development, and the number of acres in that comparable development. And what they did then is they took the average value of the lots, the average value, and multiply that times the number of potential lots in this comparable development. Then, in order to be conservative, they deducted that value by 25%. So if there was some nuances, some differences, that's what that 25% deduction in value is intended to take care of. Then from that, they divided that number by the number of acres in that comparable development to come up with a per acre value of a comparable development, again reduced by 25% in valuation, and multiplied that times the number of acres in this particular development, which is 55 acres plus or minus, and then deducted the current value that's existing out there already to come up with this would be the future development that we would expect for the undeveloped parcels in that location, which is $11.4 million. One of the items that was excluded, actually, that makes this analysis conservative is that they didn't include the current value of the property. Those are also protected by the fire protection and the speed and being able to get out there faster. That was not included. It could be, but it wasn't. And so it makes it a conservative viewpoint. And from that standpoint, I get that there's the value, when you add the value of the human life and the building values or the development value, it gets to be about $19 million. That's well above what the assessment costs are. And what they did then is, as I understand, they took that benefit analysis and they applied the same methodology of spreading that benefit as they did the cost. So you're comparing apples to apples. In the same formula that they spread the assessment costs, they used that formula to spread the benefits as well. So then you could compare by lot and did exactly what the Supreme Court mentioned as far as using formulas to assign benefits to lots. During the hearing before the Special Assessment Commission, Sansky presented some information to the Special Assessment Commission contending that the speed in which the police or the fire protection were able to get out to that particular location wasn't any different before and after the road was built. That's kind of the theory that was utilized to come up with this value from the fire and police protection to how quicker we can get out there. And if there is a document that was attached, it was a letter that came from Dwight Love, because I requested him to take a look at those response times because they seemed odd to me. For the first one, the response time was 3 seconds. There was a response time on page 1 of 0 seconds. we're good, but I don't think we're that good to getting out there. And so that struck me as being a little odd. And so we reviewed this, and Lieutenant Love took a look at the items that were presented by Mr. Sensky at this Special Assessment Commission, and said, you can read it, that most of these calls were either false alarms or unrelated to the business because there were traffic stops, things like that, and concluding that our times have gotten quicker. Then there was one that I noted in the response. There were 2 fire responses by the fire department. One in 2017, before the road was done, and then one in 2023, after the road was done. It shows that the police got out there at a faster pace, 25% faster in 2023 than they did in 2024. Also, there's an attachment by Fire Chief Lorenz in the documents that show that the fire department actually responded to the event in March of 2023 30 seconds faster. The truck time, just not from the dispatch, but the time the truck left the fire station to get to the scene, it was 30 seconds faster. And so I wanted to point that out because I know that there is information presented by Sensky that disputing the analysis that we get out there faster because of streets, and I wanted to point that out in comparison to what we presented. It does support the conclusion that emergency personnel get out there faster, and the data to me seemed a little off when the response times were that short. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, but there is, Mr. Sensky did again utilize the statutory right to seek to have the city council review the special benefits, and that's what you're here to do again tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Gossett. Ms. Storsted, was that all? Thank you as well. Do we have any idea how many man hours, how many people hours it went into putting all of this analysis together?
It was significant. I can't speak. There was time by the Public Health Department because with respect to sewer and water, or sewer service, there's a different analysis. This didn't apply here. You'll notice there's some information from Public Health, the Police Department, the Fire Department, assessing. My office, there were a lot of people that probably weren't very happy about what I was asking, but it was the information that I thought was necessary in order to monetize. And I know that there is discussions with other cities because we're not the only ones that have this issue now. This is a statewide issue with respect to monetizing the benefits.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. Why don't we open the public hearing? Thank you, Mr. Costa and Ms. Storsted. Is there anyone here interested in speaking to item 3.4?
I do.
Please come up to the podium.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Thanks for having me again. So we're back. I think what's very important here is nothing has really changed. It's been dressed up a little differently. We're again just trying to defeat the cost. And I think that it's very important for us to look at the fact that the legislature hasn't changed the requirements. The requirement is that there's a benefit. It's got to be determined, it's got to be an amount, and it's got to be assessed. And it's supposed to be assessed to each lot. What the city has done, I think, in my view, city attorney has become the fact finder, delegator. These people are doing what he wants them to do to come up with all of these assumption numbers. And what's a little bit concerning to me is the Special Assessment Commission is supposed to be the independent body that utilizes their own independent determination. They do all of the fact-finding. I think in this case, it has turned into Mr. Gosted going beyond just giving legal advice. This is a statutory requirement. This is what you have to do, to saying, here's the path. We've put this together for you. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do anything except do what you used to do, which is okay it. It's come from the city. The city wants all of this money back. And in the end, it's really not determinative of what is the benefit. More information tonight. I'm hearing that Dwight Love has done some additional fact-finding, I guess, or commenting. That wasn't before the Special Assessment Commission. This isn't the body that is to make the determination. You okay it. What I think and what I'm asking you to do is some evidentiary hearing. Challenge these people. I mean, you have a duty to be the overseer, to make sure it's done right. I know that you all have constituents and it's all a money issue, but it isn't supposed to be that way. You need to challenge these people and allow us to challenge these people. Special Assessment Commission didn't do it. You have the ability to put these people up. You can ask them questions. Mr. Gosted can ask them questions. I can ask them questions. It's to say that a 30-second saving on a trip is worth $1 million or $8 million. I mean, it's incredible. They're misusing the data. If you look at their own documentation, a common misconception is that the value of a statistical life expresses the value for which an individual, and this is their Exhibit 1 in your packet, the value that a person would trade their life for. So what's it worth? But it doesn't. It does not do that. The short term is the VSL, identifies how people value a small reduction in mortality risk. For instance, if each individual is willing to pay $1 to reduce the risk of dying by 1 in 1 million, then the value is $1. What data are they talking about? Where do they come up with this? This is a compilation study, 145 different studies, and what do they go on to say? They go on to say that the result, we identified 1,455 studies, of which we included 120. Then they say the estimates for the VSL varied substantially by context, sector, developing countries, socioeconomic status, with the median of midpoint purchasing power parity adjustments estimated of, then we go into the years 2019 of 5.7. The conclusion is of this compilation study, the large variation observed in the published VSLs depends mainly on the context rather than the method used. They've done no empirical data. We don't know what a person in Grand Forks, what is it now, 58,700 people, how much money are each one of them willing to spend? I guarantee it's not going to add up to $8 million. So their assumptions are just pie in the sky. They've just adopted these things. There's no indication being given to either the Special Assessment Commission or to this body. What is this representing? And then what are we going to use it for? Why are we using it this way? What is the purpose? Why didn't we do the study? Should it be just the people out in that little development? If it's going to be all of Grand Forks, wouldn't we divide that all out by everybody in Grand Forks? I mean, why is the total amount being placed just on these few people? It doesn't make any sense. It can't stand. Additionally, this development theory, why are they going and making these assumptions? They have a development. Part of it was already developed before the road got better. There's been really no development after, so what is the benefit? Nobody's rushing in there to do any building. It's commercial, it's not residential. All of these life-saving measures, you can see by the call log, one of the important pieces was what's really going on out there. And Mr. Gosted has indicated now that a lot of it isn't even having to do with the property, traffic stop, or it's going out for a false alarm, those sorts of things. But if you look at all of these years of all of these calls, how many things are being saved? How many lives have had to be saved? Zero. And so you really have to wonder, why aren't we using the real data? Why aren't we really determining what the benefit is? And the reason we're not doing that is because it doesn't add up. Didn't add up the first time. It's not adding up this time. You know, they can put as many assumptions out there to get so high that even if you guys were to say, well, that's 90% high, they're still going to be over the cost of doing the project. That's not what the law is asking. And I think that this body needs to reconvene this, go watch the video of the Special Assessment Commission hearing. You'll see they did nothing. They ended up saying, well, it looks like the city's done a lot of work on this and we don't really have anything to say differently, so we'll approve it. But that isn't what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to be the ones that are going out, getting the facts, weighing those facts, talking to people, going out looking at the property. Bateman, one of the cases we've talked about before, they did that. In Minot, they had hearings. This was district court, but evidentiary hearing after evidentiary hearing, and they went back and rethought it out. Here, it's just being presented and stamped, and that is a problem. And I think we have to stop it now. I don't think this is going to stand up. And we really would like, if there are issues with the police logs, let's talk about it with people that can answer it. I mean, we're trying to respond to things, and the ability to ask the questions, to make informed decisions is what this council should be striving for. And so I would ask that you not approve them and send it back. That would be the proper thing to do under these circumstances. I did send another letter today. I didn't know I thought it was Miss Bergen that was handling stuff now, so I sent it to her email. But it's basically saying what I just said to you. You know, you're not going to find a big savings in this town. I mean, you can get from one end to the other in 15 minutes. So if it's a night call, probably they throw on their sirens and hit the gas, they're going to be there in a couple of minutes almost anywhere. There are police that have to detail at least roughly certain areas. There's always somebody around. So I just think that using these assumptions, and Miss Schlossman, who's the engineer, you know, she did the math. But if you don't have those response time issues, her math means nothing. It's garbage in, it's garbage out. She's answering the question much like AI would. I need this answer. City's saying, I want this, I have to support this. So she did it. She did all the math, but if you take out the assumptions, it falls. And you can just take out the assumptions, do the math, and it fails. So we're asking either send it back, reconvene, and have an evidentiary hearing so we can test. I mean, no one is against having the right way to do this, but this is not the right way, and I don't think this will stand. And so we've just asked for fairness. It's not that we don't want to pay. If there's a benefit, we pay the benefit. I mean, they paid taxes for 30 years and had no good road, had no storm sewer, had no sanitary sewer. For all those years, they paid the same tax as anybody with all of those, never complained. Complained some about the roads, but, so we're asking that this not be the final say, and that this tribunal not vote to affirm the Special Assessment Commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. No questions?
Are you willing to take questions if they come?
Yes,
if they're asked?
absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Are there others here interested in speaking on item 3.4? Anyone else? And we're going to close the public hearing. Thank you. Yes, Ms.
One question.
Kozowski.
This is just the first reading of this, Mr. Gosted. We'll get another go at it.
Nope, this is it.
Ooh. Can we move it out 2 weeks?
You sure can have a motion to postpone if that's what you'd like to do.
I guess I personally, would that affect anything else, or just moves it out 2 weeks?
Yeah, it wouldn't affect anything, no.
Okay, I guess I need more time to think about this and do some research on it. It's the first time that it's really been in front of us, and so I'm going to motion that we give ourselves a couple weeks. So 2 Mondays, next council?
Mr. Gosted, with a motion and a second to postpone, are we allowed to have further discussion, or do we have to take the vote right away?
This would be the public hearing. I think, you've opened up the public hearing, nobody else spoke. And so the issue is before you, right? As to whether to, well, let me step back. What's your anybody that is objecting to the conclusions by the Special Assessment Commission can come forward and present their reasons why the action of the commission shouldn't be confirmed. That's the purpose of tonight. That was the purpose of Mr. Johnson's presentation. It seems to me that the public hearing component has been, you fulfilled that obligation.
Right.
And if the council wants more time for its own time to review, I'm sure if you had questions, I'm fairly confident Mr. Johnston would show up in 2 weeks
Sure.
to answer those questions, and I think I'll probably be here as well,
Yes,
as
what-
well as those members of the city staff that compiled the data. The data that I didn't compile, the data, it was other than doing the research with respect to that value of the human life, quantifying it. But the underlying data came from other staff members, so, they'd be present as well.
I guess the question I'm asking is, if I assume that second, do I have to call the question right away, or are we allowed to have additional discussion between us?
You can have additional discussion.
Thank you. So there's a motion by Osowski, second by Friedolf. Further discussion. Ms. Berg, yes.
Yes, Mr. Johnson indicated that he had written a letter. I do want to just indicate it was attached to the website at 5:10 this evening.
That's true.
Council President Sandy,
Mr. Phelan.
there's lots of detailed discussion as opposed to coming back here in 2 weeks. Would it make some sense to have it at the cow so that there could be more of a work session on the matter, and then it would give you another week to deliberate and then make a decision, and
Certainly.
as opposed to, we're going to be back here at a more of a formal, it'd be a less formal way to kind of work through how the various calculations were made. And then you would have 1 week.
So he's suggesting a friendly amendment to the motion and second to
Yeah,
delay
I'm good with
a
that.
week
We'll do
rather than.
cow and then committee for the final decision. I'm good with that.
Is that
I'm good with that, too.
acceptable?
There's a lot to digest here.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any further comments or questions?
I think Mr. Gosted had a follow-up.
Mr. Gosted, yes, sir?
If you're going to go through the process of having it at the cow, it would not be a final decision because the mayor, there could be a tie vote, and the mayor would be entitled to vote at the city council. He's not a member of the committee of the whole. And so the city council has to make this decision as a whole. So if you're going to go down, I think going to the cow is fine, but it would not be a final decision until it got to the city council 2 weeks from today.
Right, we'll just discuss it next Monday, and then we can go ahead the following Monday with making our decision. Yeah, thank you.
Ms. Berg, did you have further questions, comments?
Just with the determining benefits, is this the methodology we've been using more recently?
It's the methodology that was used in the special assessments that were presented to the city council back in October of 2024, fall of 2024 anyways.
Thank you. Does Mr. Veen, do you have something, sir?
No, I don't think I have anything additional to add. I think I'm in support of the motion, so.
Okay. I'll certainly go along with it, but I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson a couple questions, if he may. You, of course, are an attorney, so you recognize that we aren't a court of law.
Right.
And so having a tit for tat like in a courtroom would do, I don't think that that's probably our responsibility, but I certainly wouldn't necessarily have a problem having people come together and ask questions and get answers made. I am a little bit curious though. So just have there been any other protests to the special assessments that we've levied to all of the other properties in Oscarville?
No, this is the only one.
Right, and so I'm trying to understand, I mean, just generally speaking, I'm trying to understand where Mr. Sensky and their representative ownership, where do they think the benefits belong, if not to them? Where do the benefits of getting the road and the water, whom do they believe should be paying for these things?
They believe that in certain circumstances, the role of government isn't always a moneymaker. And you're a government and you're funded by our tax dollars to help everyone. And sometimes it doesn't make an immediate payout. So if you give $1 to give someone a road, doesn't mean that as a city you get $1 back.
But
you
actually,
get
it does, though.
It's not supposed to.
No, but
unless-
it actually is.
How is that?
I had to pay for the road in front of my house. Mr. Friedhoff's paid for the road in front of his. I believe these people have paid for the roads in front of their home and their water. When I bought my land, unbeknownst to me, there was a carrying cost for the water hookup. I had to pay that fee. They wouldn't let me hook up without paying it.
Right. Well, one of the big differences in this case was because the city didn't do it when they brought them in, when they annexed them. It was a more expensive proposition. So when I was talking about the 30 years that they paid without the services and they paid the same rate, then it came time to do it and it was a mess because there were some utility issues. They had to dig around some things. They had to make the pond because the statutes changed and we're trying to save our water and not pollute and do all of these things. So the cost has been so great that the benefit just isn't there for those property owners. And that's the rub. That's why
again,
we're here.
Again, this is a zero-sum game.
Well,
It
it's
is.
not.
This is 100% a zero-sum game.
It's
There's
not.
It is. It
can't
actually
be.
is.
Well, the legislature says it can't be.
But the but at some point, somebody has to pay the bill. And so what I'm actually trying to get at here is, are you contending that the rest of the citizens of Grand Forks are supposed to pay their tab?
I am saying to you,
hinted to it
everyone
earlier.
is supposed to pay their tax.
Right, But your point, your very direct point is your expectation, or the people you represent, the expectation is Rebecca Osowski and Tricia Berg and Dana Sandy, Mike Friedolfs, and everyone else in our community are supposed to pick up the tab for the people that got the road put out in front of their property.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Which one of?
Thank you.
Which one of you would pay your tax without the service, like they did?
Well, that's up for debate, certainly. I think
30 years.
the roads and water are there, though. And
Right, and they got
and
whacked
I
with those,
certainly, and certainly the city of Grand Forks shouldn't be, there shouldn't be, how do I want to put it the right way? We shouldn't be penalized from the sins of the past. It wasn't the city of Grand Forks' fault that the people in Oscarville wanted to freeload off of our community by being very near and not being annexed. That isn't our fault.
But that isn't the circumstance. They were asking, and they were asking, and
But
they
they
were
didn't
asking.
want to pay the bill.
Well,
They were asking, but they wanted it for free for all of those years. And so here we are. The rest of the people in Oscarville have agreed to pay the fee.
that's not necessarily true. They didn't appeal.
Okay.
And the part of that reason was because city personnel told them, you aren't likely to win if you protest, and that's pretty true.
Right.
So it's not like you don't have the right, but who can afford an attorney and who can do these things? So I think what's very important to realize here is that this is a unique circumstance. If this were a new development and everything was easy peasy, they would be paying just like everyone else. But just the special assessments of the last 3 projects are more than the value of the land. And that's with building. How do you rectify that? So it's not like they're freeloading. You've gotten your sales tax, you've got your real estate tax from them for all these years. They're producing, they hire people, they pay wages, they do all of these things. And so to cast them as a freeloading member is not.
Certainly, they're very good members of our community, and so my apologies. My sentiment is.
I understand. No,
Yeah.
but everybody wants to make sure that the dollars add.
Certainly. And again, this is all a business deal to me. There's certainly nothing personal.
Right, right.
Yeah.
None taken.
Yeah,
None
good.
taken.
Well, anyone have any further comments or thoughts? Yes, Ms. Berg?
Mr. Johnson, you had mentioned Minot was doing an evidentiary hearing. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, and I apologize, I may have misspoken. I believe it had already been appealed to the district court, but I can't remember. But in the packet in Senski, they talk about the efforts that were made in some of these other special assessment commissions to get to what is the actual benefit, because it is hard. I mean, you have to weigh it out, and if it might have been the Special Assessment Commission, but they have the ability to bring people in. You guys have the ability to bring people in and just say, how is this equating? What is it? And then ask them questions like you asked me. And that's how, as a democracy, we get to the bottom of things, is discussion, and everybody pushes a little bit on everybody else. And
Thank you. Mr. Constant, what happens if throughout this process, we determine that we can't find enough benefit and calculate enough benefit to cover the costs of infrastructure? What exactly is going to happen to the state of North Dakota?
You would be unable to specially assess for projects because the requirement by the statute is the benefits, the special assessment costs cannot exceed the benefits. So if you've got a project that does not, if the costs exceed the benefits, you wouldn't be able to specially assess it.
Thank you, Mr. Constant. Anyone else have any?
President Sandy, if I
Yes,
may.
Mr.
some of what's been talked to tonight is the uniqueness of this area, and just a reminder, the city council did contribute larger than the normal cost share on this because of the unique situation, and there is economic development sales tax money being utilized to pay some of the special assessments in this area.
Thank you, Ms. Storsted. If I had my way, we would move and approve and move on, but we can postpone this one. Well, at least there's a motion and a second to postpone 1 week. Further comments? Can we do a roll call vote, Maureen?
All right, the motion is to postpone this item to the next council. Weigel? Or he's not on?
No.
Sorry. Excuse me. Three less. Okay, Osowski.
Yes.
Berg.
No.
Lunsky. Friedels.
Yes.
Veen.
Yes.
President Sandy.
No.
I have 3 yes, 3 no. So that would fail.
Fails. Is there another motion? Anyone interested? Ms.
Move
Osowski
approval.
moves approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Berg. Further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying, well, why don't we do a roll call vote?
Okay.
Ms. Storsted.
All right, Weigel.
Yes.
Osowski.
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
Friedels.
Yes.
Veen.
Yes.
And President Sandy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving right along. Citizen comments on action items. Ms. Lamarck, no
None
comments?
this evening.
Thank you. Who has action items to be pulled tonight?
514.
514. Thank you. Any other?
Staff has 5.1.
5.1. Thank you. Okay, and that leaves any others for the good of the order? None. That leaves 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, 5.9, 5.10, 5.11, 5.12, 5.13. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Moved by Osowski, second by Berg. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.1.
Purchase property located at 575 and 595 South Washington Street.
Mr. Gosted, anything that you haven't added already?
I think I've gone through it already before, so unless you have further questions, the issue is going to be the JDA, as you know, voted to agree to accept the assignment. So the decision is whether the city council wants to pursue that, accept the easement as is, or to terminate the contract. That's the decision point for the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Gosted. Anyone have any questions or thoughts?
I'll motion to
Ms. Berg?
accept JDA's desires.
Moves approval. Is there a second? Second by Friedels. Further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Thank you. And Ms. Osowski, item 514.
Yeah, I'm ready to vote on 514.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Ms. Berg moves approval.
Second.
Friedolf seconds. Further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Osowski dissents. Ms. Storsted, item 6, informational items.
6.1 is your statement of changes in cash balance for December 31st, January 31st, February 28th, and March 31st.
Okay. Item 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1 is the vendor list and engineer's estimate that's attached.
Pay the bills today.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Berg,
Second.
second by Friedels. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And item 7.2,
Minutes from May 19th.
Motion to approve.
as is by Ms. Berg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Friedels. Thank you very much. Hearing no comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, citizen comments in general.
We have none.
We have none, okay.
Item 9, city administrator comments.
Two items, Council President Standing. I know we have the budget presentation, the first of a few, coming on June 16th. And so my thought is, I know there's been questions on the nest, and there's been opinions offered on that. So my thought is on June 9th that we would ask, I guess in this case, the Housing Authority to come forward and provide an overview and briefing on the nest, which is that low barrier shelter. And so that they can get some of the information out, and then at the succeeding city council meeting, we wouldn't have to dive so deep into one item in a general fund budget. So that was if you guys are all good with that, I would see if they could accept our date to come and give an overview briefing. The other thing is, at the next call, we are going to ask you, and this has budget implications too, but to move forward with another COPS grant. In this case, it would be 3 police officers. And so that'll be in front of you to ask you to allow us to move forward with a federal grant on that. The other thing we continue to work on is Greasto continues to make progress on moving forward with their project. And so, and also those mixed-use developments, as you recall, you gave some pre-applications to include Greasto. So I'm going to get updates this week to see where we're at, and if I can, I'll try to get those on the call, but I'm not sure if we'll get there. But they're becoming more and more ripe to bring forward, which is a good thing for your further consideration. The second item is regarding our supermajority and rezoning in Cardinal Point, and I asked Mr. Gosta to give you an update on the 3/4.
Thank you, Mr. Gostin.
discussion.
Mr. Frito? Mr. Gostin? Yep.
All right, thank you. We did a little bit of research. First, with the PUD change, it does invoke the 3/4% or 3/4 requirement because a PUD change in density, the ordinance specifically references the requirement for 3/4 that I'm going to go through in a second here. So that did require the supermajority process. Now, the way the ordinance sets up is that if there is at least 3/4 of the city council members present, then it requires 3/4 of those present voting. If there are less than 3/4 of the city council members present, then the ordinance requires unanimous consent. Okay? There is a 7-member city council. I did the math about 10 times. 3/4 is 75%. So 75% of 7 is 5.25, which means if you only have 5 voting, that's less than 75%. So you need 6 if everybody is present. If there is 1 person not present, then you need 5 votes. 4 gets you to less than 75%. 5 gets you to more than 75% if 6 council members are present. But if there are 5 or less members, at least 4, because you need 4 to have a quorum, then unanimous consent is required. Then I started thinking, there's a statute that says the city council is comprised of the city council members and the mayor. So if you add the mayor in the evaluation of whether the 3/4 rule, whether you need unanimous consent or not, at the end of the day, I went through a number of Excel spreadsheet machinations, and it doesn't matter because you could never get, if the mayor only votes in a tie vote. And so it wouldn't matter if he voted or not because you'd never get to the required 3/4 requirement. So at the end of the day, if there are 5 or less council members there, everybody has to vote in favor of the change. If there are if there are 6, then I still need 5 members. If all of you are present, then you need 6 members to get to the 3/4. The oddity of the ordinance is that it actually takes less votes with less people. Because if I only have 4 people present, I only need 4 people to vote, 4 council members to vote in favor of it, versus if all 7 council members are present, it needs 6 votes. And there's the kind of the anomaly in the ordinance. I don't think it was probably not an unintended consequence, but that's, as you start doing the math. The other thing is that I think the question was asked, why did we went through the preliminary vote, it was 5-2, which would have failed, right? You didn't get the 6 votes. Why did it come to a final vote? And if you think of it in the context of an ordinance, there are 2 readings of an ordinance there too. And so the first reading gives people notice that this is coming again. And so, and the staff reports talked about that as well, as this is concurrence to take it to the next vote. And then the second vote, or the final vote, is really to approve or not to approve. So there can be a change of council members' thinking between the preliminary vote and the final vote. And so I don't think it was inappropriate, even though it didn't get to the 6 votes at the preliminary time period, to continue to bring it forward for final decision-making at the final vote. So that's my presentation. It's a math problem that exists, but that's what the ordinance reads.
Thank you, Mr. Costed. Mr. Phelan, anything further?
Nothing further, sir.
Thank you. Item 10, mayor and council member comments. Ms. Osowski?
Yeah, Mr. Gosted, I was wondering if maybe you could just send out like a little spreadsheet, like an if and a then. I mean, I know you spent all that time doing, that hard math. So I know you CPAs like that boring stuff, but maybe just so I kind of have it, but it's just 75%?
Correct.
That's kind of,
Correct. If as long as there's more, 3/4 or more of the city council members there, then there needs to be a 3/4 vote in favor.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Burke?
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Friedos? No. Mr. Veen?
Nope, I'm fine.
Thank you. Vice President Weigel?
No, thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
move adjournment.
By Osowski, second
Second.
by Berg. Further comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We're adjourned. Thank you.